So let's look a little bit into what a fluid grid actually is. Responsive web development works by incorporating a flexible, grid-based layout. This basically allows the content to expand and contract fluidly. It's usually based on percentages. It uses flexible images and media, and both the images and video that are on the website can scale and adapt to their surroundings. CSS3 media queries allow for smoothing over little cracks that might be in the layout when they emerge and ensure that the developer can set breakpoints to control how and when the changes are going to occur. Instead of designing a layout based on rigid pixels or arbitrary percentage values, a fluid grid is more carefully designed in terms of proportions. In this way, when a layout is squeezed onto a tiny mobile device or stretched across a huge screen, all of the elements in the layout are going to resize their widths in relationship to one another. In order to calculate the proportions for each page element, you have to divide the target element by its context. Currently, the best way to do this is to create a high-fidelity mock-up in a pixel-based image editor like Photoshop. And then once you have that high-fidelity mock-up in hand, you can measure a page element and divide it by the full width of the page. So for example, if your layout is a typical size like 960 pixels, for instance, across, this is going to be your container value. Let's say that a target element is some arbitrary value like 300 pixels. If we multiply the results by 100, once we divide those things together, we're going to get a percentage value of 31.25% in this way. We can then apply that to the target element. So here's an example of the math. We take the target, we divide it by the context, and we get the result. And here's our math results. Sometimes the values aren't going to work out super neatly and you'll get some weird floating point value with many, many numbers after the decimal. It's going to look like a relative of pi or something like that. You don't want to round the value in a way that you probably normally would. You know, humans like to enjoy nice, neat numbers and they want everything to look pretty and tidy, but the computer, which is going to be rendering the final design, is going to benefit from really excessive mathematical precision. So fluid grids are a very important part of creating responsive designs, but they can only take us so far. When the width of the browser becomes too narrow, the design can start to severely break down. So for example, if you had a complex like 3-column layout, that's not going to work very well on a small mobile phone. So fortunately, when we're working with responsive design, it takes care of this problem by using media queries, and we're going to talk about those next.